What is up, guys? And I don't know why I always act super energetic for this, but we're doing my episode 2 of the Gear Up podcast, and I would just like to welcome you guys to Gear Up, where we talk about mostly all sports, but right now I'm talking about NFL because it's technically almost over, which is a sad time of the year. I'm not going to be talking about college football this episode because you kind of already know what happened, but if you guys didn't know, Nick Saban retired. But yeah, so let's might as well just hop right into this video and start talking about the subjects we're going to be talking about today. Alright, the first thing we are talking about, as we have seen the entire playoff outstaying, or everything that is going on in playoffs, and everything will be going on, who's playing who, and the wild card and stuff. We know who already locked the number 1 seed, that's the Ravens and the Niners, but the first team we'll talk about is the Texans and the Browns. And today I'm just going to be talking about like the underrated teams. So not like when we talk about the Chiefs or Dolphins, I'm going to be talking about the Dolphins more than the Chiefs, because the Chiefs, as you kind of know, are just have a better FPI chance to win. So starting off with the Texans, or starting off with the Texans, sorry. They've had a great year outstanding. They just beat the Colts in that very winner-go-home game in Indianapolis. They were lucky, as we know, that that Colts running back dropped the ball to win the game, but that's not the point. This team is amazing. I talked about them last episode, but they've changed a lot. As we saw CJ Stroud's pass, I don't know, but whatever. He just ran back, and then throw it and made like a 20-yard gain. He's a great quarterback. So, this year he has 4,108 passing yards, which is pretty good for a rookie, to be honest. 23 pass tutties, but yeah. Nico Collins is having himself a year. I call him one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL because he's just keeps getting better and better. It's 1,297 receiving yards with, I think, he has 8 touchdowns this year, 1 fumble. But yeah, Texans, I think, are going to have a hard game against this Browns defense. As you know, Texans can slow down or work better with teams, and it's really hard for the Texans. So I personally think Browns are going to go away with that. Why I say that, now I'm going to talk about, as they played like crap against the Bengals last week, but also they didn't have any other starters, which makes sense because we're not going to start Joe Flacco, your best QB right now. But I personally think Browns are going to come away with a win and play the Ravens. One reason I say this is because they've just progressively got better. And even though they got killed by the Bengals, it really doesn't show. Their defense did play bad, though. That is one thing to note if you're a Browns fan. Sorry, but your defense played like crap. Normal game, though. Just Browns lost, but I'm going to still say Texans are going to lose to the Cleveland Browns, and Browns are going to go to play the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is the Miami Dolphins. As we know, they had a hard loss against Buffalo last week, and they went down to the 2 seed in the AFC East. But to be honest, their team has played great all year. They've had some hard losses because they're not like an outstanding team like the Ravens, because they got killed by the Ravens 2 weeks ago in Week 17. But when you look at Tua, he's had 4,624 passing yards, which is really good. 29 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. This is the same thing like that Jalen Hurts game, or Jalen Hurts this season. He's had a lot of interceptions, but he still had a decent season. Raheem Mostert, as we know him, as a really good running back, 1,012 rushing yards. Just 1,012, my bad. And 18 rushing touchdowns, which is great, to be honest. He's great. Another good backup is De'Vion Aiken. I had him on fantasy, played like crap for a couple weeks. Played great, played like crap, played great. He has 800 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns this year. Pretty good. He's a good backup. As we know, Tyreek Hill is outstanding this year. He's had 1,799 rushing yards, 1 yard short of 800, but 13 touchdowns, and dang, Jalen Waddle only had 4 touchdowns. It's a shame for my fantasy team. But yeah, their defense is not great because they just let up a lot of points for the team. But to be honest, I wanted to be looking at Jalen Ramsey against these Chiefs. We know Patrick Mahomes has thrown a couple interceptions this year. Because, he's not the best quarterback. Well, we used to say, oh, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. And he's also getting older, but he's had the same interceptions as Tua Tagovailoa. Exact same touchdowns, I think. Yeah, well, about there. So, Patrick Mahomes has 27 passing touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I'm saying Jalen Ramsey is going to come in big against this Chiefs offense, and I say he's going to get an interception for sure, a couple tackles. Another one to look at is David Long Jr. He's had 113 tackles on the year. Look out for him, probably getting a couple tackles in this game, but yeah, I'm going to say even though it's like below 0 weather, Dolphins are going to find a way to win because their defense is progressively getting better and better and better. So next team that I would love to talk about, because I hate them, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just suck. Okay, I know they got the 7th seed in the AFC. For sure. I understand that. They somehow got there. I don't believe they should be there. Let's just say, well, they've had an okay season. But there's something about them that totally tolls away. They beat the Ravens for sure, which is great, because that is amazing. Even though their defense played great against the Ravens' offense without their players and had 1 fumble, a couple interceptions, their offense, though, played much better against the Ravens' defense at the end of the game, second half. I say Kenny Pickett's gone. Start Mason Rudolph for the rest of the year. I mean, he has only passed 3 touchdowns, but also Kenny Pickett's only passed 6, and he has 4 interceptions. So, I say start Mason Rudolph because he's actually doing something, and he's actually can be a better QB. Also, that long bomb to Deontay Johnson was perfect. He's one of those underrated receivers. And, yeah. But also, look out for George Pickens. They need to be passing to him more, even though he has 1,140. Receiving yards, he has 5 touchdowns. But, yeah. And that team's, I don't think they're going to win against Buffalo. Buffalo is getting better as they somehow clinched the 2 seed, which makes no sense, but I'm going to leave that up to you. The Steelers, I don't think, are good enough defense, to be honest, to beat the Bills. The Bills are just going to run through them like a mower. So, yeah. That is probably it that I have to talk about the Steelers because I get bored talking about the Steelers with their horrible stats. Let's move on to Green Bay, as they're playing the Dallas Cowboys, one of my other least favorite teams, against another least favorite team of mine. Now let's talk about Jordan Love. I love this guy, but I hate the Packers. Jordan Love is great. He sat on the bench for 4 years watching Aaron Rodgers just have hard years but still do good. And that's why I love Jordan Love. He's like a good quarterback and a good motivator. So he has 4,159 receiving, passing yards, and 32 passing touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Now, as you see, this is much better than Patrick Mahomes and Tua Tagovailoa. So that's why Jordan Love, I say, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, which just sounds weird, but that's what I think. Aaron Jones has been coming in the more he's been playing, as he's been out with a knee injury, I think. It's like MCL, but it's not torn. But, yeah, he's been doing better. 656 passing rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He's been doing better ever since he came off IR, but yeah, I don't have much to talk about him, but yeah, receiving, we don't have much to talk about, but Jayden Reed, 793 receiving yards and 8 receiving touchdowns. Romeo Doubs has also had a good year. He's had 674 receiving yards, which is not great, but 8 receiving touchdowns. And as you see last game against the Bears, Jordan Love threw 2 passes to Dotavian Wicks. That's how they kind of pulled away from that game from the Bears winning off field goals. So their defense isn't amazing. I just say watch out for a couple people like Keyshawn Nixon is a great cornerback. Just watch out for him. Who even knows? He might have an interception or so. Rudy Ford does run the is the leader in interceptions for the Packers. He has 2. But yeah, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a good game with the Packers versus Cowboys. Although I think the Cowboys are gonna pull away and take toll of that game and just win, I still think it's gonna be a good game. So one of the last teams I'm gonna be talking about, the Los Angeles Rams. Now I know I talked about them a lot last game. But as you see, when they played the 49ers, with all their starters, not any of their starters, Carson Wentz started, Royce Freeman, and then Puka Nacua started for a little bit, but they didn't start Cooper Kupp. Aaron Donald, who's good, they benched him. Kieran Williams benched. Everyone was mostly benched. And my assumption is they beat the 49ers good. The 49ers only benched like 3 of their players: Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. Now, those 3 players play a main role, as George Kittle hasn't played too big of a role this year, but Brock Purdy, even without Brock Purdy, they still did something, but their defense fully gave up. If you look at this team, Carson Wentz, he had a pretty good game against San Francisco. He had, not great, but 163 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. He has a 90.3 QBR in that game. But also, he had a rushing touchdown, which was great, and that was one of my most favorited moments of Week 18. But yeah, to be honest, this Rams team is great. Puka Nacua broke 2 records for catches for a rookie and receiving yards for a rookie. Congrats to that man. But I think the Rams are going to pull away from the Lions and take this game in their own hands. Why do I say this? The Lions, I know they just beat the Vikings, and why am I wearing a Vikings fan hat and a Jets jersey? Don't ask me. I just put it on just for this video. And why do I have a Braves thing behind me? Don't worry about it. I just have it in my room. Okay. But yes. I think the Rams are going to pull away from the Lions because they are such a strong team. And with Matthew Stafford, Kieran Williams, Puka Nacua, everybody. Cooper Cup. Whatever. This team is great. I love them. They're not my favorite team, but their record does not show what they actually should be. It should be like at least 12-5. Sounds crazy, but that's what I think. And the very, 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 very last team I will be talking about, as this was my last podcast until playoffs. I might do a little, no, I don't know, maybe something tomorrow. I'm really busy tomorrow. But we are talking about the Tampa Bay Bucks. Yes, they're playing the Eagles. We talked about the Eagles last game. Same issue as the last week. Okay, they lost to the Giants. They played like crap. Their defense played like crap. Jalen Hurts, I think, almost broke his finger. Still played. Again, what I said last week in last week's podcast, the Eagles don't have a defense. Every single week, they show that and show, oh, we don't have a defense. So, the Buccaneers are a better team as they're getting better. Now, Baker Mayfield, who I don't even know if he's a decent quarterback, to be honest, has 4,044 passing yards, 28 passing touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Much better ratio than Patrick Mahomes, as is 27 tutties and 14 interceptions. So, yeah. And then, if we talk about the rushing yard key over here, Rachaad White, decent player. He's getting better every year. As we see, last year he was like a backup and not good, but this year he has 990 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. Now that's getting better than what we saw last week. But yes, Mike Evans is also 1,255 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns. The Buccaneers are going to win against the Eagles. That is biased, but that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to come out maybe with a little thing tomorrow about like a bracket, and I'll just put voiceovers on it. The video should come out tomorrow too. Doesn't matter. So this video is my second podcast, so I don't know why I have to say this all, but thank you guys for listening, and I'm going to go eat, but thank you guys for listening, and have a great January through January 17th, because I'll either film on Wednesday or my birthday, the 18th. So, yes. Love y'all. Let's get to 3,000 subscribers this year. I'll be posting more shorts and stuff. So, yeah. Peace out. See you guys next week. Next week I'll talk about divisional rounds and basketball and all that stuff. See y'all.